When the bombs began to fall over Europe, entire cities vanished in clouds of dust and flame. In those moments, survival wasn't just about bravery. It was about the walls around you. But when concrete was rationed, steel was destined for the front lines, and glass shattered under the immense pressure of an explosion, what protected the people left behind? It wasn't armor, it was cloth. A strange oil-treated fabric that kept homes from burning, families from freezing, and shelters from collapsing. This is the story of the World War II shelter cloth, the forgotten invention that turned ordinary fabric into a fortress. Before the war, both British and German engineers were already searching for something better than the brittle tarps used in civil defense shelters. Standard tarpaulins tore easily, became soaked after a downpour, and, most terrifyingly, burned like paper during incendiary air raids. The need for a more resilient material was urgent, so civil defense labs began experimenting, exploring unconventional methods. They started coating canvas in layers of boiled oil and fine ash, a strange, almost alchemical mixture that soon proved to be revolutionary. By 1939, this treated fabric, officially known as shelter cloth, was strong enough to survive pressure waves, resist moisture, and fend off sparks from falling bombs. It didn't look like much, just dull, unassuming brown sheets hanging in basements and Anderson shelters, but in the chaos of war, it was a lifeline. Imagine this scene. A mother in wartime London, with the haunting wail of air raid sirens echoing outside, is boiling linseed oil on a tiny stove. She carefully stirs in whiting powder, or, if that wasn't available, simple fireplace ash, until the mixture thickens into a paste. Then, with a brush, she applies it evenly onto old curtains, worn-out sails, or any spare piece of canvas she can find. After days of drying in a damp cellar or a small flat, the fabric stiffens, developing a faint, almost waxy glow under candlelight. It's now waterproof. It's fire-resistant. And it's ready to face the next terrifying night of bombing. This wasn't a factory process. With just oil, ash, and canvas, ordinary people created their own protection, turning their homes into personal fortresses. It was a remarkable feat of civilian ingenuity, born from sheer necessity. The science behind this homemade armor is surprisingly elegant. Boiled linseed oil, when exposed to air, undergoes a chemical process called polymerization. It transforms into a natural polymer, effectively sealing the fibers of the cloth into a thin, flexible, yet incredibly tough layer. The ash or clay added to the mixture acts as a filler, plugging the tiny pores in the fabric. This not only made it highly resistant to fire, but also prevented rot and mildew. Even after hours of relentless rain, the material didn't leak. And unlike rubberized tarps, it didn't trap moisture inside. It breathed. This breathability was crucial, keeping the cramped underground shelters warmer, drier, and more habitable. Tests conducted by Britain's Home Office showed that a single treated sheet could withstand 2 hours of continuous rain and resist open flames for several minutes. An astonishing performance for something handmade in kitchens and garages across the country. This wasn't just a material, it was a complete home defense system. Families used shelter cloth everywhere. They stretched it over windows to block shards of shattering glass from flying inwards. They draped it across doorways to absorb the crushing force of pressure blasts. They hung it under ceilings to catch falling plaster and debris. If you layered enough of it, your basement effectively became a small, low-tech bunker. And when incendiary bombs rained down, a dampened sheet of shelter cloth could be used to smother the sparks and small fires before they had a chance to spread and consume the entire house. People called these retrofitted spaces protected chambers. Today, We'd probably call them low-tech blast shelters, a testament to the resourcefulness of civilians who refused to be passive victims, using what they had to defend their homes and their families. After the war, with the advent of new technologies, synthetics like nylon and rubber quickly replaced the humble oilcloths. The specific knowledge of how to make shelter cloth faded into memory. But the core principle, using what you have to create robust, effective protection, remains as timeless and relevant as ever. For off-grid builders, homesteaders, or modern survivalists, the same simple formula still works wonders. All you need is heavy canvas, boiled linseed oil, and fine ash or clay. Together, these three simple ingredients create a sustainable, durable, and breathable alternative to modern plastic tarps. One that, with a little care, can last for years, not just seasons. It is a powerful lesson in self-sufficiency that has been largely forgotten in our age of disposable plastics. Even now, museum samples of original wartime shelter cloth remain remarkably strong, over 80 years after they were made. It's the quiet, enduring proof of how well natural materials, when properly treated and understood, can perform. In an era obsessed with high-tech synthetics and complex manufacturing, this humble oilcloth still outperforms many modern waterproof coatings in terms of longevity and breathability. It's not just a piece of fabric. It represents a philosophy, finding strength and resilience in simplicity. It's a reminder that sometimes the most effective solutions are the ones that have been with us all along, waiting to be rediscovered. The World War II shelter cloth wasn't an invention that came from a corporate boardroom or a sophisticated research lab. It was built by the people, by mothers, carpenters, and local volunteers who refused to just wait for help to arrive. Their ingenuity and practical knowledge turned ordinary homes into makeshift armor. And that's the real story here. Sometimes, survival doesn't begin with overwhelming strength or advanced technology. It begins with understanding the materials around you and having the will to adapt. Because even in the darkest nights of war, a simple piece of cloth, treated with oil and ash, could hold back the storm. Thanks for watching, and if you found this story of forgotten history as fascinating as I did, please consider liking, sharing to friends, and subscribing to my channel Forgotten Survival for more history and forgotten survival videos.